Hello friends, my name is Harshit Kedia and I am currently studying generative AI, data science, machine learning, etc. And in this video, I will be sharing with you a short project which I have done about function calling with Google Gemini Chat AI. So let me tell about function calling. Function calling enables developers to incorporate custom functions or APIs with a generative AI chat application. So you would have, if you have written a custom function, or if you want to fetch a data from an API and use it in your while incorporating it in the generative AI chat application, the AI model will decide if the functions or APIs which are present for in being incorporated in it, when the user is asking some query to it, it will decide if those functions and APIs are useful for it for answering the questions, and it will generate the response with functions and arguments that will be used in those functions. So the function will return some value and then the chat application will use those values to answer the user queries. The functions which are written in the by the programmer should be well described with the arguments, their argument data types and the return values. These things I will discuss more when I will be showing you the functions. Over there actually the chat application should need to understand the purpose of the function and what kind of values it is inputting as arguments and outputting as the return value, so that it will be able to decide if that function has to be used and what values should be passed in that. So in this video we will also explore parallel function calling, which means we will be having multiple functions which are passed to the AI chatbot, but from that it will decide how many or all of the functions or some of the functions should be used for responding to the user query based on the use case. And we will be also using external APIs of cities population and a country's currency used uh, for answering the user questions. So those APIs will be giving us the information about a particular city's population or the country's currency used, and if the user's question is in some way relating to those queries, then those APIs will be used by the generative AI application to generate the response for the user. So let us begin with the coding part. First we'll import the necessary libraries. Request and JSON will be used for the APIs, calling them and then processing the results, and then the generative AI API from Google will be used for the generative AI application. This application is in IPNV file, and the link to the repository of this will be given in the description, as well as some, if you have some queries or for some collaboration, if you require to contact me, then also my details about my contact details will be given in the description. So first we will give the API key over here. I have put it as a string value, but you need to take the API key from the Google's Gemini AI website and then put it over here, so that the model will be able to use your API key to fetch the results and run the user query. Then we will select the model. I have selected Gemini 1.5 Flash, and then the response for an instance for testing the model if it is working correctly. I have asked it a question of what is the date today, and it has given me the correct response, which means our API key, which I would have written before making this video, would have worked over here. So now for function calling we need to specify the user function which we have to give it to the chat API later, but for that we will just need to well define it, what are the arguments and what the function is about. And over here first we will describe the description of the function. For example, here a function called set light values is there. So it sets the brightness and color temperature of the room light, and it's a just a mock API for now. I am using it for practicing for one function, and then we will extend it to parallel function calling also. It takes the arguments of brightness and color temperature. I would emphasize that here we need to specify the data types of both the arguments which are passing over here. So because if we don't specify the data type over here, then while calling it in the sorry, in the chat, AI chat, it will give us error. So we need to specify the data type of the arguments here itself. Then we have written the description of the function. Then what are the arguments which it is taking. We also need to describe the type of argument and what values it is taking, so that the model will be able to provide some arguments based on the context. For example, over here the brightness and color temperature are given, and the brightness value is from 0 to 100. So the chat API will be providing you the arguments of 0 to 100, any value, while calling the function. It will give us the value based on the context, what appropriate value should be used. Then color temperature is there. We have given the information about the what the argument is about, and then what should be the values. So over here it can be daylight, cool, or warm. These kind of values can be there. Then what are the values the function will be returning? It will be containing a dictionary containing the brightness and color temperature. So as we can see over here, the return value is giving a key value pair of brightness, and the value of brightness, then color temperature, then the value of color temperature. So we have described this function for the purpose of the AI chat to understand it, and how it will be used in the function calling. So this is the first function. Let us now try to give it a dummy value and try to run the function, so that we can know that the value it is running properly. So the light values function with argument of brightness equal to 30 and color temperature equal to daylight. So as we expect it to return a JSON value correspondingly of the same with the arguments, it is giving us the brightness of 30 and color temperature daylight as a JSON object. It is returning this JSON object. Now that we want to use in the function calling, we will select the model and specify the tool to be used in for function calling. So model name we have given, and then this same function name which we have put over here, it is containing these arguments, returns, and all these kind of descriptions. So the purpose of writing it over here is that while passing it inside these tools, those descriptions will be used by the chat model to use it properly, to understand the function and properly give the function calling response, and while using the function. So it will actually be able to understand the function better and give appropriate response. So now we will start a chat object, and then in the chat object we will invoke a response of by sending it a query: dim the lights so the room feels cozy and warm. Now you can see over here that the in the function description we have written that the function is about the brightness and color temperature of the light. Now in the chat query we have asked it to dim the lights so that the room feels cozy and warm. So now it's upon the chat model to understand if the query asked by the user is in some way relating to the function which which the programmer has written and passed it in the tools argument to the chat model. So if the function is useful in some way for the answering the user query, then it will then the chat will do a function calling and invoke appropriate arguments in the function and suggest us that the function can be used and what arguments can be given in that. So now this response has been generated by the chat, and if you want to see the response, if the function can be used inside the for generating the user response, then it will give us the function call as a function call object inside its JSON object, and in the function call it will tell us what are the name of the functions that can be used and what arguments it can take. so that the function will be able to run and the return value will be in some way useful for giving response to the user. Now you can see that the set value light values can be used. It has Gemini AI has suggested us that the set light values can be used, and it has also suggested us what arguments can be given inside the function. For example, brightness is there, color temperature is there. These both have these two arguments which can be given to the function for generating the values. So now this based on this response, now our task is to extract these evaluate the function with the arguments the chat model has suggested, and then we will store the values returned after passing the arguments in the function with the function name. Means I mean to say that a JSON object will we need to create a JSON object which will contain the functions which the chat has suggested which can be used, and upon putting the arguments in those functions, what return value we are getting from those functions, we will have to store those things as a key value pair. Means the key will be the function name and the value will be the return value which has been passed after which we get after running the evaluating the function with the arguments the chat has suggested. Now this was because over here in our case it was such that only one function we had given it, so the chat suggested one function only, but there can be cases where multiple functions can also be there. So multiple functions will be when multiple functions will be suggested, then multiple those functions will need to be evaluated with their corresponding arguments, and the JSON object will be having multiple key value pairs of the functions as the key and their corresponding return values as their key values. So for the case of the for the case of parallel function calling where multiple functions will be used, we need to iterate in the if we can see in this response part, this parts object is having the function call. Now if multiple functions will be there, then multiple function call keys will be present inside this parts object JSON object. So we would need to iterate it for the inside the response dot parts for all the, and if the part is actually a function call, then we would need to take the function with the arguments and then evaluate it. Actually this complete function which is present over here was given inside the Gemini documentation for the users who are trying to use parallel function call. From there only I have taken the comments I have added over here, and what comments I have written I will explain it in just a moment. So as I told that when response will be having multiple functions, so we will iterate it over the multiple for each function call, and then the function fn in our if this in our this example, in our this code snippet, the this fn will be assigned the value of the function call, means the function name this object will be assigned to this fn, and then from the fn will be having two things, the function name and its arguments which we need to extract. So first we will be talking about arguments. So this args args variable is there. What it will be doing, it will take the arguments as key value. It will be taking it the arguments as a string, like key will be there equal to the value of the corresponding value for the key value pair, for keys and values inside the arguments of this fn. So I told that fn is having the function name and the arguments which the chat model has suggested. So in the args variable, what we are doing is that we are creating a string which will be having the key value pairs of which the which have been suggested as key equal to value, and then all those key value pairs will be joined as a comma. If I show an example, we are having, actually we are printing it for understanding what is happening over here, and if you see arguments are, then this args value is getting printed. So if this is actually the print statement over there. So as we had seen over here that uh, the args was having the brightness of 30 and color temperature of warm. So what we wanted to do is that using the using the args string variable, we wanted to store it in this form: brightness equal to 30, and then the next argument which will be separated by comma from the previous one, then color temperature and equal to 1. So the key is there, value is there, comma, another key, another value. Now what I have written over here in the comment is that we want to use a rep. We actually require to use the rep function because of a reason, that the string is getting written over here in such a way. If rep is not used over here, for example, we were having the warm value over here. Now rep is not used, then what will happen is that we will get this warm without single quotes. So color temperature equal to warm, it will be there without single quotes. So warm will be considered like a variable. Actually it's not a variable in our current program. It should be used as a string, as we saw in the function, that the argument it was taking was warm and let me show once, just a second. It was taking daylight, cool, this kind of string values it was taking. So and it was stored in the json variable, json object, as a key value pair with uh, with warm as the value. So but if we want to use it as a string, so we need to enclose it in single or double quotes. But as the structure of the this string generated is such that if we don't use the rep, then it will be there without a single quote, and then it will be treated as a variable which will generate it as an error. But one thing we also want to ensure that we don't want to use the single quotes around 30, because it should be treated as a number, not a string. So this rep function is used for such a thing, that if we enclose it around a string or some variable like that, then if it should be treated like a string, then it will be enclosed by single quote. If it is a number and can be used as a number, then it will not treat it as it will not enclose it in quotes, so it will be passed as a number, not a string. So that's the function of rep. And the next thing is that now the function to be called this is the next thing. Actually what we want to do by this args variable and this fn.name is that we want to imitate the way we write a function in with arguments enclosed in this. So as I have written over here, function being called using eval with arguments is, now this variable is function to be called, this same variable we are printing over here. If you see over here, what's the value with is getting printed, function being called using eval with arguments is set light values, brightness equal to 30, color temperature equal to 1. So actually this was the function we were using earlier, and we want to um, evaluate the function with the arguments the chat model had suggested. So the purpose of writing this args and function to be called in such a way is that we want to imitate the way we write the functions. But this value, this string, this is actually generated as a string. As you can see, this is an enclosed in an F string. So but we want to actually evaluate what is the return value on passing the arguments. So this string has to be used for evaluation. That's why we are writing this eval around the string which is stored in function to be called. So when it is converted from a string to the purpose of evaluation, then the string which is this complete string is then used for evaluation, and then this set light values becomes a function, and these things become the argument. So that's why output of the eval comes as output is having the evaluation of this function to be called, which means it is getting what the function is returning over here. So now the work which we wanted to do of getting the values and the functions being called by the chat model is done. Now we want to store it as a JSON object with the key as the function name and what it is getting the output as its key, its value actually. Now this functions, what this functions is a JSON object which we are passing over here as an argument. So this is our complete function. So functions will be storing the key value pairs which we are getting over here, which is the function name and its return, what we are getting the return value after putting the argument suggested by the chat model. So let me show an example of what will happen over here. So this house functions is a JSON object which is not having any value currently, and function to be used with their outputs. This is the complete function which we have talked about. House functions, and then the response. So response is having the set light values 30 and warm, which we want to evaluate and store inside this house functions. So if you like, when we are calling this function, some of the values are being printed inside this. So inside the what is getting inside printed inside is function is being called using eval with arguments brightness 30.0, color temperature equal to warm, and then what we are getting after this function has been used, we got some values inside the functions which are used inside uh, this as argument. So you can see that function used inside this, so house functions was passed inside this argument. So we know that the functions which are passed inside this argument, house function will be actually used over here, and then uh, it will be getting the functions which are invoked and then its corresponding key value pair. So if this function works correctly, then after running this function, the house functions which we passed as argument, which was empty JSON object, after running this, the house functions will be storing the function name suggested by the function name suggested by the AI chat, and its return values which we got after running the function with the arguments. So this is what we got, and since only one function was there over here, so we got a one function only, if the one key value pair only. If multiple functions would have been suggested, then this process would have been iterated, and then multiple values we would have got. Okay, so after this, now since we got this house functions with the function and its return value, we need to pass it into generative chat function to generate an AI generated response, which will be using the function and its return value to give the output to the user. So after this, the output which will be generated will be using the function and its return value to provide the response to the user's query. This is something which I used from the documentation. So the response parts is an array which is the right purpose of this code is to convert this JSON object house functions into an array, into an array which um, the Gemini chat AI is compatible with to process it. So maybe they wanted to process it in a way which they were comfortable. So because of that, they had written this kind of code in the documentation, and this response parts will be storing the name of the function, and the response means this JSON object will be passed inside this response parts. So it will be processed in the way compatible with the Gemini AI chat model. Now we have passed it. This response parts will be passed in the chat object which we had created with the model Gemini model, and then this we will send the message to this chat model with the response parts array, and then the response which will be printed will be having and then the response based which will be response will be having the query to response to the query asked by the user. So and then we will print this response.text. This complete function is working in this way. Now when we want to invoke it with the argument, we pass response based on function. We are invoking it with house functions. House functions is having this value. and then it will generate the response to the user query. So okay, I have dimmed the light to 30% brightness and set the value to the warm. So this as we remember that the set light functions was passing the value of brightness as 30 and color temperature as warm. These arguments were also suggested in fact by the Gemini only, but after processing it in the way we desired, we got this response. And this now this response will be used by the Gemini AI chat model. As you can see, 30% brightness and color temperature to warm. So in this way the function calling was done and the function return value were used by the chat model, and then response was generated to the user. So this is the broad part. Now this was the part for understanding the code. Now we will be using parallel function calling for completing our project, which was originally to get the population and currency of the city and country respectively by parallel function calling in the Gemini AI chat. So first we will now generate write the get population function, which if I describe over here, gets the population of the city which is asked and the year of count. So the argument will be the city, which will be a string value we need to specify over here, and it will get the population of that city, and the population it will return, it will also show in which the counting was done. So argument is the name of city, and then JSON object encapsulating the population of the city and year of count if the actually year of count. So this is the part actually if the function is executed successfully. There may also be cases in which the function returns an error response. So error message, for the case of error message also we need to take care. So I'll tell you how we are doing that. um, this was the from the API only. These all things, payload and city value. The URL was from the API only. So these all things from the API. Now, if the JSON data is the response which we get to from the API after giving it the city name. So if the JSON data is showing an error object, then we will be writing the uh, value present in in the message. Actually, when there will be an error, then error key value will be there, and correspondingly a message key value will be there. It will be showing the error message for that. So the value in the error message will be returned in that case. But if the function is getting successfully, then we will be returning the JSON object of the population and the population value which we got from the API from these things, and then the year of counting, and the year of counting also data will be provided by the API. For example, if we run the function successfully, then if we pass it as get population of Amsterdam. Amsterdam is a city in Netherlands, so it will be giving us the population, and the year was of counting was done in the 2011. Now similarly there is a function called get currency, and it will be requiring the country code in the string object type. It gets the information about the current currency used in the country. So argument is the country code, and it requires the alphabetical country code of the city of the country. Example, if referring to Nigeria, then the argument passed will be its alphabetical country code NG. So NG is the country code of Nigeria. So if you want to ask for the population of the Nigeria, then you have to give the country code of Nigeria, which is NG. So it will be returning a JSON object encapsulating the country used in the currency used in the country if the function executed successfully. And in this one also there may be cases where error will be there, so error message will be returned, and these things were given in the API only, so I used it from there. After passing the if the function with the argument, the JSON data will be returned. If the JSON data is containing a key of error, which means the function didn't execute successfully, then means the API wasn't actually able to fetch the correct data, then the error message will be returned. And if the correct data was got, then the data with then the currency will be returned over here. For example, if we want to know the currency used in Pakistan, then Pakistan have country code PK. If we pass this, then the function returns the value of currency used over there, which is PKR. Now Now these two functions which we want to pass inside the Gemini AI chat, which we have to enclose them in the array and then pass it to the generative AI model with tools equal to demography functions. This array is there which is enclosing the functions. Now we will be getting the chat object, and we will be doing the same things. Now since the functions were already defined over here, I just use the function name and pass the arguments in this. So you can see that I have directly used function used and their outputs and got the response from that. So let me show you. This was the earlier function only which we wrote over here. Let me show a function used and their outputs. This function was used for getting the function name and the output from that function after passing the arguments. So I have directly used it inside this, just to not repeat the complete code and get the work done with the function name only. So uh, in this example, first let me show you what we are doing in this. We want to get, the user asks the question, tell the population and currency used in Delhi. So this demography functions used is an empty JSON object. We get the function used with their outputs. This function is running, and then we are passing this JSON object as our input, and the response from this um, generative AI chat in this. So this response will be also encapsulating the function calling, what functions should be used, because in the model only we specified the tools of demography functions, and the demography functions has these two functions actually. So in the response it will be having the function calling and the arguments which have to be used, and it is getting you passed into this, and then the demography functions, um, just a minute, demography functions used, this empty array is also getting passed. So if we run this function, then we are getting this arguments are Delhi, city equal to Delhi. For the for the function of the city population which was there, we had to pass city equal to Delhi in that. So this was the argument. Function being called using eval with arguments is get population city equal to Delhi. So this arguments is getting passed into this get population function. Then argument called country code, actually yeah, so the Delhi is actually inside the country India. So for India, the country code is IN. So we are invoking the this get currency function with country code of IN. So after getting these two functions, we actually this function will be complete, the function used and their outputs, and then this demography functions used, which was an empty JSON object, will be now having it will be having the key value pairs of the functions which got executed. So uh, since now we were having the two functions which are getting executed, which is get population and the get currency. So the get population got the return value of population of the city Delhi and the year of counting, and then the next function, the get currency key value, is having the value of the functions value which got returned by after executing the get currency with the argument of IN or India. So it got the currency value as INR. Now we got this JSON object to be filled with the functions used as the keys and their return values as the values of the key value pairs. Now we will be running the response based on use function. That was also the function earlier I showed for let me show it once again. This function was there na, that response based on functions. It will be taking the functions, which is the actually the JSON object containing the function and their return values, and then it will generate the response response.txt based on the functions called and their return values. So now if we pass the function with the these values, the get population of this and the get currency of the value of INR, we will get the response to the query asked by the user, which is the population of Delhi is this thing in 2001. The year of counting also is important because the population keeps changing, so in which year the counting was done is important. And the currency used in India, which where Delhi is located, is the Indian rupee. I want to point out one more thing, is that which is that when we asked it about the population and currency used inside Delhi, the AI was intelligent enough to use the population of the Delhi, but also because the currency is not actually used inside only one city, it is used inside the complete country, inside which inside which the city asked is located. So the AI was intelligent enough that the Delhi is located inside India and it has the country code of IN. So AI was intelligent enough to figure out that Delhi is located inside India and India has a country code of IN. So it has to use the get currency function with invoking the corresponding country code of the city in of the country in which the city is located. So this is the intelligent part which the AI has done, and then it has invoked the function. And also we can note that the AI hasn't given the knowledge from its own database. When it was having the functions which it could use, then it used the functions only. No, it didn't give the answer based on its own its own data with which it was trained. So if the function is useful, and then it will give the priority to the function which is specified by the user only, not its own data. So in the following two examples, only the function call is being executed for the population function, because the user is asking about the population of the city only, not its country. So you can see tell about the population of Tokyo. So it is now only invoking the get populations. You can't see any get currency function invoked, and the population is returned to be this thing in 2010. You can see the argument passed is city equal to Tokyo. And this example is also similar. In this also we are getting the population of New York, but for some reason the API which we were we were referring to earlier wasn't able to fetch out the population of New York. So the AI has acknowledged that thing and answered that it can't find the population of New York. So tell me the population of New York. The arguments are city equal to New York, and then the function being called is get population city equal to New York. But because of some reason the API couldn't have given the population of New York, so the AI acknowledged that and didn't and it said that it couldn't find the information about the population of New York. It didn't give the answer from its own pre-trained knowledge. It you gave the function priority to the function only, and then gave the answer about what the function is actually responding. Sorry. So in the following example, only the currency function is being called by the AI chat, because the currency is only asked about by the user. Tell about the currency used in London. These all functions are there. Country code it has got about in which country London is located. So London is located in United Kingdom, which is having the country code of GB. It is getting passed in this country code equal to GB on the get currency function, and the currency used is getting AI is responding with the response that a currency used in London. London is located in United Kingdom. So the currency used in London, United Kingdom, is British pound, GBP. So we can see that when it is depending upon the query user has asked, it will invoke the functions only which are required for answering the questions of the user. If for example the user asked both about both the population as well as the country, then both functions were invoked. But if user asked only about the one of the things, like only about the population or only about the country, then only the one of the functions was invoked. And if the API wasn't able to fetch the data, then the AI acknowledged that API wasn't able to fetch the data, then the AI acknowledged that and responded that it couldn't get the data, instead of giving the answer from its own training data. So the AI gives the priority to the uh, programmer's custom function, which is called in the function calling, then in comparison to responding it with the user's data, in comparison to the training data with which it is trained on. So this thing we can see. And we this function calling can also be used for fetching data from the database, which the AI may not be having trained in any case, because you can use, if you want to use a private data which you have stored in your database, so the AI will not be having the training of that. So for fetching the data from your database, you can use the function calling and integrate it with the AI. So it will be able to just generate chat responses with using the database of your private data. Also, if you want to use the inferencing to save the costs for some function which will be very costly for the AI to give inferencing, for example some mathematical or complex function which will be there, the AI may be able to generate it for you, but it may happen that the inferencing cost for it will be very much high. So if you want to do the part of that calculation on your own server with your custom written function, or maybe using some different API, then you can use for the function calling for that purpose also. So it will give you the faster results with less inferencing cost, and save you money for that. And also this function calling can be used for writing some custom function in a way when you don't want the AI to respond to the user query in the way it was trained. If you want to if you want it to respond it in a way in which you want it to respond it in a customized way, then you can write that function in that, and then the AI will give priority to responding based on the uh, output your function is suggesting. So this is the function calling technique which we explored with Google Gemini. It can also be used with OpenAI or other chat AI models. So they also have their API for function calling. Parallel function calling can also be used for them. So in this way, function calling can be used to for your tasks to simplify this. All this code for whatever I have written in this notebook will be available in the description of the video. There will be a link to GitHub repository, you can refer it to that. And also if you have some doubts or you can contact me for collaboration, then my contact details will be given over there. Thanks for watching.